Good morning, everybody, and welcome for joining us today. We just waited for load shedding to kick in before we started, and we see there's also quite a few people joining still, but we're going to kick off so that we can get through all the stuff that we're doing today. So my name is Ninka Kruger. For the people that haven't met me yet, I'm the product manager for the financial reporting for IFRS, SME and XBRL. And with me today, that's going to present a little bit later, is Mohammed Asmal, who's from the platform and agricultural team, I can never pronounce it, and Christian Stein, the product manager for assurance. What we're going to cover today is, like we just did the introduction, then we're going to do the what's coming for the financial statements, what's coming for the financial statements in regards to the firm template and the data retention, the what's coming for caseware working papers, and then what's coming for assurance, which Christian will then manage, and then the roadmap and the upcoming sessions. In this session, we have muted all the attendees just because there's quite a few of you. Please use the chat functionality if you have any questions. This is more information session, so I don't believe there will be a lot of questions, but if you do, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer them during the session, but if not, we will reach out to you afterwards. If the signal is lost at any point on your side, please just exit and enter the webinar again. We are monitoring the sound and the signal from our side. So if you have any issues, experiencing any issues probably on your side, so please just exit them and start again. The recording will be sent to you after the session, so you can look out for that. And then also all our recordings is on the Caseware YouTube, so you're also welcome to look out for it there. So first, before we start, I want to talk a little bit about communication. We got feedback from our clients on the communication, that the right people are not getting it, the level of communication, and that is really what the session is about today, is to communicate what we are planning for the end of the year release and what we are working on. This will give you the opportunity to also think, is there anything you're planning on your teams that you have to do differently for next year? Because it feels like it's still a long way around, but it's really not. So that is what the session is today. We're also working in some in-software notification in our next release, which will enable you to see further what is the changes that come through without emails or LinkedIn or any of that. From your side, I would appreciate, please visit our community. There is a lot of information on there. We've put a lot of work on keywords and the search functionality that you can get the right type of information. Also, if you've received this invite or email, it means that you are on our list of communication. But if you have any other staff members that you need to add, please go and do so on the community. And I'm just quickly going to jump to that screen and show you how that looks. So if you go to the community screen, you're all very familiar that it's there. Then you can have your login here, and I've now logged in as myself. And then normally here, what you would say, you would also see your staff, and you as the champion can then go and update them. There is also a how-to on how to do it. I will put it in the chat after. So please make sure the right team members have the right access, because that really helps that the right communication is done on the right level. Okay, so if I just jump back into my slides. And then again, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube. All the communication that we send out, we also do there, and it really helps that you know of what's coming in the immediate future. For the IFRS and SME, I'm going to cover a few elements today. It is not everything that will be included, but it's the major items from a compliance perspective that will affect you directly. A few things that will be included that I won't cover in much more detail, that Mo will cover from his side, is the working papers 2023 and the firm template wizard. Like I say, he will cover it a little bit later. Then we are looking at the assessed loss, that 80% rule. We did get some feedback from the market. They would like a little bit more of a calculation around that, which will be included in CTM. I also won't cover more than that today on that. XBRL always updated, and the fixes and improvements we will cover in the beta sessions or the What's New webinar. But really what I want to cover today is, like I said, the compliance changes that might impact you and you will have to be aware of before the new year start. So the big change for IFRS, if you're an IFRS client, is the IS1 presentation of financial statements that had a change in the accounting policy. So the project was added in 2018, then in 2021 it was issued and was added to your new standards, and now it is effective from years beginning 2023. So this year we will have a change in accounting policy in our change in accounting policy. And what it really means is there's two main elements that you need to consider. The first thing is that significant has changed to be material, and that has a potential significant impact to you because it means that all your accounting policies you have to relook again. So it doesn't matter if you adopt what we are gonna, the change that we will be making, your account policy from now on will be your material accounting policies. And that will also be a change that is done in the audit report. But then furthermore, if we look at practice statement 2, there's also quite a bit of detail in there. And really, if you do fall in this category, go and read on it. It must be specific reporting entity, like I said again, a big drive to not have all accounting policies in there, only your material ones. But then there's also, if you look at the second paragraph, the expectation that your primary user will have reasonable knowledge. Now, this is the part where there might be a difference of opinion on what the reasonable knowledge is of your clients, because not all of them might be chartered accountants. There might be users of the financials that don't have all the knowledge that was expected from the standard. So those are the two things that needs to consider. So how are we including this in the software? So if you look here on the left-hand side, there's a template that you have today with two new buttons in the right and on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side is your revised standards. So what you will have is you will have two accounting policies. You'll have your accounting policies like it was in your financials before. Let's call it the significant accounting policies. And then you'll have also the option of the new material accounting policies. So we've really looked at all the accounting policies, and we've said items, for example, like a definition, you would expect a user to know what inventory is. You don't necessarily have to word what inventory is, and you can straight go into on how you adopted it. So it does make your accounting policies quite a bit smaller. But we're also very aware that there is clients that maybe are doing an old set of financials, or feel that the accounting policies that we have before for their users, it might be more applicable. So we are keeping the old ones in, and you can choose between the radio buttons which one you want to do. Also, if you add your own customized accounting policies, this will retain as far as possible if you have developed it in the right way. If I say in the right way, if you've used the super inserted, that the sections are correct, then that will retain when you update your file. But really do look at the new accounting policies. They are adopting the standard as was intended. So like I have here, just a small example also for intangible assets. I do think on the screen it might be a little bit small, but on the left hand again, you can see the original. On the right hand, you'll see the new one, quite a bit shorter, quite a bit more condensed. We also added a few more buttons where we can, radio buttons, to just make it easier to switch between the different options that will be applicable to you. So what does this mean to you is, firstly, consider how your firm will apply the standard. If you're an audit firm, if you are going to use your own tailored accounting policies, if you're going to use our new ones, or then stay with the old ones with some changes yourself. Discuss with your clients if you're a preparer, especially if you have a corporate that needs maybe a bit more discussions with a broader group or a broader audience, make them aware of it. We are mostly number people, so as soon as you say to them, look at wording and describe how you do something, it might take a little bit longer. So I think some advanced action on that will be beneficial for you in the long run. And then if you're in a corporate firm, definitely some internal discussions with a broader group to also create awareness of it. For SME, we've got two big changes from a compliance perspective. The first one is the body corporate illustratives. This came out from SAICA in a little bit earlier in the year, and we have looked at that illustrators, and we will be adopting that in the English as well as the SME Afrikaans template. There's quite a few changes in it, bits and pieces. The biggest changes are the three schedules that are coming in. You can see on the right hand side the levy schedule, the budget forecast, and the insurance schedules that we are busy putting in. There is also more to it, but that's the highlight of what will be in the body corporate then going forward. And then the next one is the SME Indirect Cashflow. This is not a new requirement, but we've it was something that wasn't in the software before. With the changes of the cash flow worksheet, we had quite a few clients that asked us for this as well, where they haven't used it before. So we are currently implementing that as well. And it will work the same as on IFRS. You'll have, in your settings, you'll have the 2 buttons and you can select between the direct and the indirect method. Right, and I'm going to stop there today, and I'm going to say thank you everybody for joining, and I'm going to hand over to Mo.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to share with you some of the exciting things coming up in the release later on this year. I think I'm going to touch on the big features that are in the release or planned for the release. They really centered around making your jobs easier, making you faster, making you more efficient. So the biggest feature probably of the release is concentrated on the firm templates. So we're going to go into detail on the changes that we anticipate making and how we see that improving your experience and your user journey when you're working, when you're creating client files. We're then going to take away or give you more insights into what's happened to your file, especially after updates. So that's where we're going to talk about the data retention views. I think we've invested a lot of time in implementing optimiser in the financials. We're not seeing it being used in the right way for you all to really get the benefits of it. So we just want to take you through that, and we're going to add another feature to it, which I'll talk to later, to hopefully drive more of you all to get benefits from it. And then we're going to talk about the enhancements within Working Paper itself. Okay, so let's start with the firm templates. So we sat with a lot of clients, I think, over the past year, helping them customize and create their firm templates. And we did it specifically so we can understand all the problems that are experienced in the market. We think why we're starting with the firm templates is that it plays a big part in helping you attain a high level of efficiency in your organization. But the current process of creating a firm template is very time consuming, very prone to error, and people weren't winning. So I think we're definitely going to improve that process. That's the starting point. But before I get into the detail on how we anticipate improving that process, I want to take you through the key features and benefits that you should be getting from your firm templates. I think from a standardization perspective, it allows you to adopt a standard approach across the firm, which is very important. I think from a time-saving initiative, you can save time and put more focus on actual client-specific needs rather than the mundane issues of getting things to work. It increases efficiencies, which leads to increased productivity and better client service. With regards to customization, I think customization caters for tailored reports that addresses any specific firm disclosure requirements that you may have. And it allows for a better client experience. I think we enable you to create professional and polished reports, which clients really appreciate at times. From a training and onboarding perspective, it ensures that everyone is working off the same base and allows for quicker upskilling. And from a brand consistency perspective, firm templates helps adhere to the firm's branding guidelines. It just makes it easier to control that everything is in the right place and the way you wanted it to be. So firm templates, in summary, can definitely lead to these operational efficiencies and help you get these attain these goals in your firms, but there needs to be an easy way of creating this firm template. And currently there's a lot of problems that we found when we sat with you guys. So I'm going to take you through some of those problems now. On screen, you have a picture of the first page of our existing firm template repackaging document. Some people, when they see this, they get scared. So I'm here to tell you that this is what we will be replacing. When we went through this document with clients, they raised specific concerns, which I want to share with you now. I think there was a lot of guidance missing. People don't know when, whether they should create a new firm template or whether they should update their existing. It really didn't go into detail on how you make that decision. Users found it hard to determine how many firm templates to create. Some people were still creating a firm template per entity type. So one for company, one for CC, and they ended up with 10 firm templates, and then if there was a fix or a change, they had to make it 10 times. So the document really didn't bring that information to the fore to help you make those types of decisions. I think then when you actually got into the document, the process was very long and complicated. The steps are hard to follow and all over the place. And users really didn't know what to test once they made their changes, which is a critical part of that you want to get right when you prepare your firm template, because any mistake or bug or issue that's in that firm template, as soon as a client file is created of it, that issue is then replicated in every client file subsequently. So that is a big problem, which the testing really wasn't catered for to the level of detail that we'd like. Then when you were customizing the financials, there was a step there to clear goods and add goods. I think which we agree was very time consuming, and we're doing some work to now make that better. And what happened right at the end is that you did all this work and then you weren't sure how to roll it out, because this document really didn't go into that level of detail. So in the new one, we're going to let you know how to distribute this in your firm once you're done, because it's different for everybody. It depends on the size of your firm and a couple of other things. So those are the problems that we're really seeking to address when we get rid of this document. And I think now I'm going to take you through what you're seeing on screen is the overall process and workflow that we see happening when you create a new firm template going forward. I'm going to go into each one of them, and I'm going to show you what the old process did and how the new process is going to be different. So if I start with the first one, I think there was no real guidance on when you started your firm template. We didn't tell you whether you should be considering starting a brand new firm template, for example, or whether you should be updating your existing firm template. There's a lot of factors that you need to consider when making those decisions, but we definitely recommend that every few years you have to reassess if the template is meeting the objectives required. We'll help you make the decision and to update your existing firm template or to start afresh. So we envisage there being some questions that you answer, and based off that, we'd make a recommendation. Then we'd also advise or we'll make you answer some questions to help guide you on how many firm templates to create. I think we've seen firm templates not being created in the way that we originally envisaged, so we're going to bring that information to the fore. And when you actually start this process, often at times people don't know where to get the software, how to access the My Software page. So we're going to put all that guidance and detail in the document, so that when you get to this point, you don't have to go looking for information. Everything is exactly where you need it to be. So from a guidance perspective, I think we're going to give you a lot of insights before you even start. I think then when we got down to the real nitty-gritty of it, I think we definitely didn't want to use a Word document again. The case view document will enable us to provide you with fewer steps, if I can say that way. It allows the document to be more interactive. We can ask you questions, and based off the responses, skip and hide certain steps, so you don't have to go through all the steps. You only have to see the steps that are applicable to you. Further to that, we'd be able to give you like a step counter, so you can see how far you are along in the process, because it can be quite a time-consuming process. And thirdly, because it's a case view document, we can execute scripts or direct you to the financial statements and execute things when you're in that file. So it doesn't need to be a complicated process of clicking on options, enable special features, and writing enable special feature code. You click buttons or menus and everything can happen. So we definitely, the case view document we're seeing as one of the biggest improvements, or moving the Word document to a case view document, because it just gives you all the benefits of case view and caseware when they work together. The next improvement or next step in the process is, or the first step in the process ultimately, once you've decided whether you're going to create a new firm template or update an existing, is that you're going to get all content into the file. I think we've made an improvement here. Previously, you needed to use the optimiser and bring in all the content for company, then bring in all the content for CC, then bring in all the content for trust, and it just was a long, drawn-out process. Now, with the click of a button, you'll just be able to get all content into your file at once. So once you've got all the content into your file, be that a new or update, in the new file, we really don't, and you don't need to do much. I think you'll just need to understand what's changed by reviewing the file in conjunction with the release notes, just to make sure you understand all the changes that have happened. When it comes to update, there's a few more steps that we recommend that you do when preparing your firm template. And this is where the data retention views come in. What we felt is that if you went the update route when creating your firm template, you really weren't aware, or you really had to go hunting for what changed within the file. So we're seeking to take that black box approach away and make that information available to you through the data retention view. So the anticipated outcome is that when you run an update, you go to the data retention views, and by going through each one of those views, you'd be able to see what content was inserted into the file, what content has been updated, where my paragraphs have changed from last version to this, where my table names have changed. This is quite an important one, because you might need to just go and see if your custom content still pulls through to exactly where you need to pull through. And then we'll give you the ability to compare your old mapping database from your old file to your new file. So this is the start of where we want to make your start on understanding the update and what's changed. Obviously, if you went the new file route, you wouldn't have to do this step. But for those that can't, and there are valid reasons why you can't do a new file, and we wanted to make the journey as easy as possible for them as well. So this is the option that we're going to introduce to make your lives a bit easier. I think another important thing to know as part of the update is we're going to automatically copy the packager folder. This used to be a step further down in the document, and it used to happen manually, but there was no reason why we couldn't automate it. So we just added that to the list of things to happen automatically. So once you've updated your file or got your new file, you start with your customizations. Now, the customizations in the old process was really manual. I mean, you went through super insert, either went through super insert or you went through design mode. We obviously want you to do as much as possible within super insert. And I think what was really lacking is that there's so many options available to you in form mode. It's hidden in the menus on how to change the header line, whether the registration number must print in your headers or not. And there's a whole host of options that we have, that changes that you can make in form mode without going into design mode. So we're going to actually list all those options out for you so that you can see that, okay, these are options are actually easy to do, and you might have been doing it manually and you never knew it was there. So now you'd be able to go and see whether it's something that we make available in form mode. I think the added benefit and where we're going to try and be different as well is we're going to list all these different types of customizations that you can do. So for example, you can change the headers and footers through the menu, or on the cover page, you can insert your logo. On the assurance report, you can use a letterhead or a pre-printed letterhead in form mode, how you can change your signature areas, for example. But when you go through the document, next to each step, we're going to tell you that, okay, because you made this change in this way, then when you roll out to your firm, we probably recommend that you do an update, or you tell your clerks to do an update, or we recommend you should do a file from existing. I think what we're trying to solve here is that people might sometimes be customizing the firm template, expecting things to be in the update, but because it's your custom content, it's not built into the update. So in those scenarios, you have to go file from existing route in your firm. So we'll help you make that decision, or make that decision easy for you. Then while we were at it, I think one of the big problems that we saw in the old process when customizing is that when you went into design mode and you copied and pasted content, you actually had to delete GUIDs, add new GUIDs, and change a lot of section properties and section names, and it was really a laborious task. And it introduced a lot of risk and error. So what we did now, or what we're building at the moment, is a feature where we'll allow you to copy existing content from, for example, the PPE recon to the goodwill note, or to any other note in the financial. So you can basically copy any note or table within a note to another note. It's basically the feature is going to be called copy existing section, and we really feel that that's really going to be a big step forward to help you not go into design mode. Over and above just taking that section and putting it in the right place, it'll go and do things in the background, like changing the section labels, clearing the GUIDs, adding new GUIDs, delinking it from writing to CV database, changing the custom properties, things that you would have to do manually. So anything that we can automate is what we're trying to do, and this I think you're really going to find value from, especially when customizing. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with you guys. As we get closer to the date, we will. Then I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that you release a good template as possible with as little bugs as possible. So now once you've customized, you might have introduced a few bugs unknowingly. And what we're going to do now is we're going to give you some automated tests, like duplicate section labels, overlapping sections, duplicate GUIDs, check if your index page numbering is correct, check if your carry forward headers are correct. And where we don't have an automated test, we'd give you a manual test plan. Okay, you changed this section, so please, it affected these 3 things, you might want to retest it. So we want to make sure that you understand, or make it easier for you to understand what you need to test once you've changed something. Then in the packaging process, I think we saw that the template wasn't packaged off with the right scripts at times. What would happen is that a user would start packaging their firm template, and then be disturbed by another person that has a problem, and they'll install the old firm template. And by virtue of doing that, they've now replaced the new scripts with the old scripts. And then once they've helped their colleague, they'll go back to the firm template and start repackaging it, and ultimately repackage it with the older version of the scripts, which would lead to script errors and cause problems when you roll out into firm. So we're going to create an automated check so that this can't happen. We won't let you package if the scripts and the template are not in the same version. And while the other big thing that we're going to do on packaging is when you're saving your content to the library, we're going to make sure that you can't save it with the incorrect column widths, because we don't want you to have an alignment problem when you roll out. Finally, I think when you at the point where you have to distribute the template, we will actually give you guidance and help you make the decision on how to distribute it within your firm. So I think that's what I wanted to cover from a firm template process. I think we are going to be having design sessions. If anybody wants to be part of the design sessions, they're more than welcome to contact Ninka or myself, and we would tell you when they're happening and see if you're available. We've already scheduled about 10 clients, and we really feel this, if implemented well by us, would give you the ability to have a less buggy template and create those operational efficiencies that we talked of in the beginning. So that's the first big thing. I think the second big thing is the optimizer. So in the financials, we introduced the optimizer a while ago. We understand that you should have a faster product as possible, and the template can be very slow. I want to delve into the details a bit of what's making it slow and just give you a bit of history of the journey we've been on. I think from last year and the year before, we started optimizing our scripts and made gains in several areas. We looked at the speed of opening caseware, the speed of opening the financial statements, the amount of time it takes to save a file, and the update time. Ultimately, we made improvements in all these areas, but it was still slow. Then we looked at what more we could do, and what we saw was that there was a direct relationship between the amount of content you have in your file and how long things take to execute in the file. So I think just to put things into perspective, we have about 100 notes in SME. In most SME files prepared in the market, you're not using 40 even. That means 60% of your client file can actually be purged or left out so that your file becomes faster. You'd be very hard for us to find a client file that has all content switched on. So with the optimizer functionality, we gave you the option to bring notes and accounting policies in and out within a set of predefined rules. We automatically bring a note in if it has a balance so that you always stay in balance. We never let you delete a note if it has a balance. We automatically detect if there's a change in your mapping, which necessitates the insertion of a new note. And these are the things that we provided to you. But what we saw is that the tool is not being used in as an efficient manner as possible. For example, when people were creating firm templates, they really didn't purge out all the not required or the not required notes. What then happened is that when they rolled it out to their firm, the users in the firm would create client files which had notes in it which weren't ever being used and was just slowing down the file. And we seek to address this problem by making it easier for you to decide if you should be purging some of the content to get a speed benefit. But before we get into that, I think I just want to show you our benchmarkings and what we've seen when you've got a file with 100% of the content, SME file this was, versus when that same file has 40% of the content. In most instances, you're getting at least a 30% saving in some of the features. I just took a high-level snapshot of some of the things we benchmarked. We go into a lot more detail, but if you're not optimizing content out of your file today manually, I think you should always remember that anything that's green means that it has a balance. It won't let you purge it out. And anything that's black in your optimizer, it means that it doesn't have a balance and it can be purged, so it's probably extra unless you're using it for additional disclosure. We're going to start directing you more to the optimizer to purge content. I think we automatically launch it whenever we want you to bring content in, but we don't direct you towards the optimizer to purge content when you see you've got extra content in your file that's not being used. So if we see that you've got a note that doesn't have a balance and is off, we're going to start directing you to the optimizer screen to purge so that your financials can become faster. I think with that, I'm just cognizant of time. I want to cover what's coming with caseware. I think we've added a bit of, for caseware working papers themselves, there's been a new history event added, which is called Relocked. It basically lets you see if a file was locked, opened, and then locked, unlocked, and then relocked. So there's a specific history event of that. There's been various bug fixes to case view, importing and exporting, compressing of a file, hybrid cloud, and on the interface. We've put in a new PDF writer, which should generate crisper and cleaner PDFs. From a UI perspective, we made some changes to the consolidate, find vendor company, and connect to sync company UI. And I think the other big changes, which I briefly want to touch on, I'm not going to go into too much detail, is the integration with Sherlock. So Sherlock is a product which we will be bringing to market. We're currently testing it at the moment, and it allows you, it sends all working papers information from the client file to a central app in Caseware Cloud, and over there you can amalgamate all the data from all your client files and visualize them. It's pretty cool. I think Myron will be in contact as we get closer to the date on that one. And we've worked a lot with the integration with IDEA. Obviously, in last release, we were able to integrate with IDEA from a caseware perspective, but now we're able to integrate directly from a case view document in working papers to IDEA. With that, thank you to everybody. And if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out. Cheers. I'm going to hand over to Krista.
Good morning, everyone. So from an insurance perspective, we'll be looking first of all at Audit International and then a bit later at Probe. So for those of you not familiar with Audit International, it's one of our audit methodologies that we get that is predetermined from Caseware International, and we then localize that for the local market. So what's coming for Audit International? So first of all, some compliance aspects, ISO 220, the quality management for audit of financial statements, and this really has a big effect on the responsibilities of the engagement partner. So it would be crucial that the engagement partners have a look at the new content and make sure that they now understand their responsibility of the engagement files, where they should be involved, how they should be involved, as well as the dates and times that they need to get involved into the specific areas within Audit International. The second area is ISQM 2, the International Standards on Quality Management, engaging quality reviews. So that relates to your engagement quality reviewers and their specific checklists that we have added for those EQRs within the product. We've also looked at the financial statement areas within Audit International. Now, this one is quite important. So for everyone with separate working papers, whether it's linked with Connector or not, you will get a new document manager. If you're asking me what the document manager will look like, it's now going to be exactly the same as the Probe or the financial document manager. So we'll now have the same across the different entities and the different templates. So you will have one document manager, whether you're working with Audit International, whether you're working with Probe, or whether you're working with the financial statements. So we're aligning all of those, and that will then help us with the integration going forward. That will also give you new, renamed and renumbered sections. So make sure you familiarize yourself, if you do have working papers already, with the numbers and the lead sheets already in the financial statements, because when we release Audit International, it will have the same numbers. So you can already start with your working papers. If it's linked to Connector, you can start with those already to make sure that you're ready when we release. And then that will give you new lead sheets as well as improved graphs. Also very important, we are adding some history documents. This is based on feedback we received from the market. So you guys said, well, I want to know who has accessed the document, which documents has been created, deleted, any history events that you have, as well as post-lockdown events. So some of you have asked before, when a regulator comes to visit you and there's any lockdowns happening, what happened post lockdown. So we've added the document for you already. So in the past, you had to actually go and unlock the file, add the document to give them the information, and then you had to relock it, and then that showed as a post lockdown event. Now if they ask, you can just open the document. We haven't changed anything in the history, so this history has already been recorded. We have now just added the documents for you so that you can see the actual documents. Then in terms of new documents or new forms that we have added is document 302, the worksheet for engagement quality checklist. So that's that EQR checklist that we're adding, as well as we added a worksheet for withdrawal. So when you're withdrawing from an engagement, we've added that worksheet. It also prompted some updates to our one form, and that's mostly for the ISO 220 content. General, across the product, all the terminology from engagement quality control review are changing so that we're removing the control piece. It is now just engagement quality review, so EQR. In terms of procedures, there's about 52 procedures with major changes. So what this entails is it will change on update. So if you're doing any firm templates, please take note that there will be 52 procedures that is going to go into the new template. There's 46 with minor changes. So remember, minor changes won't necessarily update the template. You have a choice. And those minor changes are mostly references to the new standards. So if you're not using those procedures, you don't need to bring it in. We've added 10 new procedures and we've deleted 2. So that just gives you an overview of the size of the release so that you can think about it and plan accordingly. And then in terms of guidance, we've updated most of the document guidance to reflect the new standards, references, ISO 220 and ISQM 2. That then is Audit International. If we then look at Probe, and especially focusing on the audit side, again, same regulation changes, ISO 220, ISQM 2, and we will be bringing in those content changes as well. So for Probe, there will be 5 new documents. First of all, 1222, the use of resources. So this is everyone that is now part of your engagement team that we will be bringing together into one document, the use of resources, because the engagement partner must ultimately sign off on the use of resources. So we're bringing that together. Then we have document 1226, the use of another practitioner. So if you're using another practitioner for a stock count or some confirmations, then there's a separate work program that you will now be able to send to the other practitioner where their staff needs to declare their independence and that they know, understand the firm that they're doing the work for and that they will comply with the relevant requirements. Then we're adding for the EQR, document 1220, an EQR plan, where they will be planning the EQR engagement as well as reviewing the documents within the planning section. And then we're adding a new document in terms of laws and regulations. So this is based on the feedback that we received from you guys when we did the ISO 315 feedback sessions. So last year we released ISO 315 with the biggest change being that you now only have to audit the assertions that are either selected or relevant in terms of the risk. However, our laws and regulations procedures were also included in the work programs, and then if you didn't select or that assertion wasn't relevant for the laws and regulations, then those procedures wouldn't have shown. So what we are doing is in the general section, we are adding document 2010. This is not PPE. So for those of you who still remember that 2010 is PPE, this is not PPE. This is a new laws and regulations work program as part of your general section. So there's 16, 17, 18, 19, and then we're going into 20. And it will contain all the laws and regulations procedures. So if we think about Companies Act, some VAT Act, items, payroll items that we already have in the product. We're not going to cover every single law and regulation. Document 1121 will prompt you for the laws and regulations with the possible material effect, and you can then go and add your procedures there that relates to it. But that will be the general work program for laws and regulations, where you would then audit the laws and regulations that's applicable that doesn't have a specific effect on any balance. Then we're looking at 02.05 in finalization, which will be the team declaration, where they would do their final independence declaration. In terms of document updates, document 0280 is the currently engagement quality control reviewer document, and we are updating that document with a new design with some automation in there as well in terms of references where work has been done, and it will be a brand new format. Then document 1052, the analytical review versus document 1051, we are bringing in the option for you to complete either or both of the documents. So again, feedback we received as part of our client visits in terms of ISO 315. Some of you are of the opinion that you need to create an expectation when you're doing your planning analytics, some of you are not. So we are going to give you the option in the firm settings. So when you're doing that firm template Mo is talking about, remember that you can go into the firm settings, select your firm default. You'll have three options. It's either you do both always, you do one of the two, and the option will be 1051. You either do 1051 and not 1052, or you can choose per engagement. And if you select choose per engagement, that option will be in 1050. So that option will then become available for you to select as a firm champion to choose which documents you want to use. Then the engagement partner sign-off automation in new documents. So the engagement partner now has a much bigger role to play as part of the engagement. And we will give you the automatically pull through when you're signing off electronically, where that has been signed off and when the document has been signed off in the engagement partner sign-off document. So all of that information will then pull in with hyperlinks that you can then go and review. Then we've removed all the COVID-19 procedures in all of the documents, and we are updating 1121 with the latest laws and regulations. And then for document 0250, which is the assurance reports, we are updating all of the visibility of the procedures. So in the past, we got some feedback that you don't always understand why we are proposing a certain opinion, and we're now bringing in all of the visibility, what was going on in the background, why are we proposing something to you, based on questions that you've answered in other areas of the product. So we're just making it a bit more visible, and then why we are proposing that specific audit opinion. Then we will also be adding tags and specific filters into the document manager, where you can filter for audit, review, compilation, as well as preparation documents. And if you only want to see the lead sheets, you can also filter for lead sheets. The same as Audit International, we're adding the history documents into the engagement file, and those will be in the finalization section so that you can see all the history on the file. And then in terms of bug fixes that we've prioritized is this release will include all of the hot fixes that we've released to date. We'll have improved visibility of the work program procedures. So we're focusing on those work program procedures to make sure that they show when they need to show. Some improvements on the grouping flips that we've received feedback on when a debit goes to a credit and where they flip to. And then we've looked at the printing of all of our documents to make sure that the columns are aligned when you actually do print either to paper or to PDF. So that's what we're doing for Probe. Then looking at Caseware Idea. So it's important to note that when we're talking Caseware Idea, this is for early 2024. So this is not part of the release we're talking about now, but we've already started some of the development, and we are readying up the Probe template for integration within Idea. So we are focusing on two areas within Caseware Idea in terms of import and then integration. So first of all, for SysPro and Pastel Partner, we are building one-click imports, and that will allow you to import the data from the accounting packages without you having to import every single database separately. After we have imported the information, we will then map it to the ISO for audit data standards, and that will happen automatically. And for SysPro, we are focusing on the general ledger as well as the order to cash cycle. For Pastel, we are focusing on the general ledger initially, and then later we will do order to cash. And then in future releases, we will do the procure to pay cycles as well as some of the others for these packages as well as adding more packages. So once we've mapped the procedure or the accounting packages to the ISO, we can then go and execute procedures based on the information already mapped. So within Probe, we are then going to release in 2024 what we call idea actions. So the idea actions will actually be able to execute procedures already in the work programs based on revenue, trade and other receivables, as well as cost of sales when you are using a perpetual inventory system. And it's important to note when the transactions are not batched. So we have already developed about 24 idea actions that can be executed. And those are actions, all of those, if you think about it, where you need to compare the trial balance with the general ledger, compare the general ledger with the sub ledgers, and then recalculate a lot of the transactions. So we can do those recalculations, we can check the VAT for you, and we'll then release that a bit later or early in 2024, but it's important to note that it won't be part of the 2023 release that we're talking about now, but it's still coming, and we'll tell you a bit more about this when we actually release the Probe templates. So in terms of the roadmap, if we just look at what's coming up, so today we had the What's Coming webinar, just to let you know what's coming, what is happening, what are we busy working on, and you can reach out to us if you have any questions or if you want to see anything specific. Then in October, we will have our beta session. There will be a beta webinar, so look out for the emails around the beta webinar. It's important to us that if you, or for you to participate in the beta sessions, because those are the sessions where we can get the feedback from you and we can actually still make some changes within the product if it need be. And we also can't test it in every single client environment out there. So you guys have different machines, you've got different environments, different antiviruses. So we need you to test it in your environment and give us any feedback that you might have. So generally we have the beta webinar on a Friday, and then we give 2 weeks for you to test, run through it, and then provide us with feedback. And we'll then be in touch to let you know when those webinars will be. I think that would be an important time, especially for the engagement partners, to get involved, to make sure they understand what is actually coming up when we release the new template, so that they can be familiar with the changes then coming up in the releases. Then in November, we will do the actual release of the template and then have a What's New session. So within the What's New session, we'll go through all the changes within the template together with our release notes, and that's when you will then be able to actually get access to the release and see what has changed. So that brings us to the end. Please have a look and keep an eye out for those emails from either myself or Ninka. Participate in the sessions. If you have any questions or comments, reach out to us and we can then answer those for you. So that brings us to the end. We're excited about the release. I hope you can see there's quite a few things coming up. The development teams is already working hard on some of these features, and we'll then keep you in the loop as to when the release dates are, and you can start penciling those in together with the beta dates. But keep a lookout for the emails in the future. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great weekend further.